Welcome back to the channel. I am the Pumpkinator, and today we're going to be covering the Godslap comic series because it won the poll! Kinda. Finally, I get what I want. You don't get a say. Created by Stephanie Phillips, Aubrey Titterson, and the moisty boy himself, MoistCritikal's for Bad Egg Publishing. Godslap makes me wet. My balloon knot is ready. If I sound excited, it's because I am. I mean, it's for our short king. If you haven't heard of Bad Egg Publishing, you're not alone. Godslap is actually the flagship comic for Bad Egg, which is a publisher that turns digital content creators' concepts into comics and merch. And it sold over 100,000 copies, which ain't nothing to sneeze at. And he based the main character's powers on his love of slapping, which, you know, you can probably tell from the name, and also from like him watching slapping competitions for over a year. But yeah, it's pretty fun. It's actually so fun that it has an animated adaptation of the work by Sakawi Studios. So you can tell that it's worth the hype. But I can't talk too much about the comic book's backstory just because, you know, the comic came out in like, what, 2022? So let's just dive right into Godslap. The issue starts with this cool guy getting off the bus, and he's pissed off. He's heading towards his club where we see a bunch of guys ordering drinks from this buddy. The entire club seems to be bumping and everybody's having a good time. Well, that's until this old guy gets absolutely domed in the head. His crew checks on him, but he falls over the railing and lands in the middle of the crowd. The people freak out while a man walks up to the body and kicks the poor soul. Well, his crew pulls up and tells him to put his hands up, but he just smiles. They tell him again and he throws his jacket and bursts into a beam of light while the guards shoot at him. They're all confused because it seems like the guy just kind of disappeared. But he comes out from underneath the jacket and smacks a drop of sweat into the guy's face and blows his head smooth off. Talking about sweat and bullets, am I right? Oh God. He reappears and the guards start shooting at him, but he slaps the bullets and they all get lit up. He looks up to the camera and says hey to a guy named Sal, who apparently is freaking out because Darius is coming for him. He has him locked down the building, but it's way too late because Darius just blew the door off the hinges. He tells his crew that they need to leave, but Darius just kills everyone, leaving Sal all alone. Darius asks Sal if he has a cigarette, but Sal says he could have had him killed, you know. He asks for a light, but Sal begs for his life. He tells him that if he gets killed, then they'll never stop looking for him or the boy. But he just blows out smoke and creates a hand with it and then slaps the crap out of Sal. Oh my God, bro, this comic is fantastic, dude. Sal asks if the boy is worth dying for, and he's like, yeah, and slaps the hell out of Sal. We then see Darius pulling up on this chopped Halo ghost to this absolute man. That man is Eos, and he asks Darius if he got the supplies. He says that the stores were boarded up, so Eos offers to go, but Darius says no, to stay away from Montepeller and to finish the fence. Eos has other plans though, because he just drops on the chopped ghost and zooms off, low-key pissing off Darius. We then cut to outer Montepeller, where we see a man finish retrofitting cyberware to this random guy. The doc tells him to take it easy, but he says he's got to make a living. The doc doesn't want him to fall into the wrong crowd just for money, but he might have to because he tells him that he can't pay him. The doc says it's okay though, and says his payment is letting his arm heal. And when he leaves, an alarm starts to blare. He runs into his lab and asks what's going on. And his robot says that an anomaly was detected, but the doctor says that can't be possible. But it is true. He runs over to awhile and gets super hyped because he finally succeeded after everything he worked for. He asks his robot Peck if he knows what he needs him to do, and he says he does. It rolls out and they're about to change the world, for the better or the worse. We then cut back to Eos, who's being watched going through the city. The people watching are scrappers, and they come down to get a boy. They tell him that they only want his bike, but he just headbutts them and tries to knock him off. But the scrappers grab the bike and stab it, causing Eos to crash. They all surround him and they're about to fuck him up, but he tells them to stay away. But they're like, nah dog, because they're about to kill him. They try to attack him, but he dodges all their moves. And then he smacks one into pieces. Then he uses 1,000 consecutive slaps to blast the scrappers into pieces, and blasting himself back, knocking him out. And when he comes to, he sees his arm laying in front of him because he blew his own arm off. What? How do you do that? Can your body not handle the recoil of your power? He picks up his arm and tries to carry on, but he collapses in the middle of the road, where a woman pulls up on her bike to check on him. We then cut to this Tron-looking guy who's listening to the lady trying to help out Eos. He flies down to the scene and sees all the carnage, and finds it interesting, and believes that the Defister will think so too. So he gets back into his ship to report his findings. He travels to this cool airship called the Bicep, where we see a bunch of guys chained up. A dude yells, but just gets his head punched off by this buff man, who tells his crew to send the men and to extend the diving board. And that is how the first issue ends. And I gotta say, I have a lot of fun reading this. I wasn't expecting the main character's arm to get blown off, especially in the first issue. Like, I guess he's got that Deku syndrome. I do think that the powers are cool, like objectively. I do like how everything's in black and white, except for like the blood, like in Sin City. And the bad guy's mustache is putting mine to shame. It's everything I could be. I can get there one day. Well, you're probably wondering what happens next, right? Well, the woman's name is Cyan, and she takes Eos to the doctor, who just so happens to be her dad. They're about to start working on him, but he blacks out again. gone. And when he wakes up, the doc says his arm just kind of reattached itself. Eos asks where he is, but they just tell him to take it easy. And the doc introduces himself as Dr. Reno. Eos starts to remember what happens, and Cyan introduces herself to him. He thanks them both, but he tells them that he's got to skedaddle. But they tell him to take a beat, because they still need to run more tests on him. Peck takes some of his blood and leaves with the doctor, who tells him to get some rest, which they totally ignore because they start racing down the hallway. Eos says that the doc is a pretty cool guy, but Cyan says yeah, but it's not the same as being happy. All this is said as she shows Eos his super secret supercomputer with all of his scientific findings. The computer has all the stuff that the doc had worked on before he opened the clinic. She said she was going to take over for him when he got older, and then showed him this cool astral projectile guy. And she says even though we all look a little different, deep down we're all practically the same. Eos says that it's cool that she can share this with her dad, and then she asks him about his parents, but it turns out that he never knew his parents, which is kind of run-of-the-mill for a comic book, right? You can't have a main character unless their parents are dead. But I guess we don't know if he's dead. Parental trauma! Eos' arm starts to hurt again, so they decide to head back to the medbay. But then the entire building starts to shake because these goons just broke into the lab. The doc is like, why, bro? And the goons go towards his blood experiment. Whoa, 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 whoa. Is that the Xana symbol? Maybe the doctor's not as good of a guy as I thought. Does anyone even still get that reference? God, I'm old. That theme song hit, bro. Here we are, going for disable our love. The doc tells him to stay away, but they just hit him straight in the face. The two of them come rushing in, but they grab Cyan. Eos tells him to let them go, but gets held at gunpoint. They ask him what they want, but if it wasn't obvious before, they want the experiment. They press a button, revealing a huge red blood cell and radio to the boss, saying that they found it. He's like, lovely, and tells him to stand by because he's on his way. He jumps off the ledge to dive into the lab, crushing the lead goon. God damn, this guy's a fucking beast. I know I'm not supposed to like villains. Well, fuck that. You're allowed to like villains. I like this guy. Also, I'm pretty sure that's the inspiration of the poster in Charlie's background. He says he's sorry for dropping in unannounced, but after hearing they found the device, he had to see it himself. The doctor tells him to stay away from his work, but he's like, nah, dog, and slaps him out of the way. Cyan breaks free so she can check on her dad, and all of this pisses Eos off. So he goes in for a super slap, but Mr. Fister high-key tanks that shit and grabs Eos to give him a titty twister. But as he holds him, he has a little vision of a cute little baby boy who is 100% Eos. He asks him what his name is, but Eos replies with a little advice: walk away now. Eos tries to slapper cut the big boss, but he just dodges it with ease. He keeps trying to hit him, but with no avail. The boss has had enough though and somehow stops Eos from slapping. He grabs him and tells him he's gonna have fun beating his ass. And then he brutally kicks the crap out of him. He says he's disappointed because Eos has so much power but no clue how to use it. Then he picks him up and punches him straight through a wall. The boss hits that shit, but gets upset because the doctor is destroying all of his research. He tells Cyan to get Eos out of there and that he loves her. And then he sets off a huge explosion, practically killing everyone and knocking out Cyan. And she dreams about her dad, who's apologizing about what happened to her mother. He asks her if she hates him, but she says no because she doesn't know him because he's always working. The doc says he has to find out how her mother died. She doesn't understand why though, because she's gonna be gone either way. But he says she's never gone because he sees her in you. She tells her they need to keep going even in this broken world and to remember that she'll always have two parents that love her. We then see Cyan emerging from the rubble. She asks if anybody's there, and then she stumbles upon Eos, who is all messed up, who he himself is having a dream, just not as pleasant. He's angrily splashing in water because he's upset that he couldn't do more. But then he hears a voice calling him pathetic. It's Darius, who's absolutely digging into him for not being able to put up more of a fight. Eos says that Darius never trained him, and if he did, he would have been able to save them all. But Darius just laughs and says that he's no warrior. He's a failure, a curse that he has to burden. He keeps being like genuinely mean to Eos until he gets so pissed off he attacks him. He tells him he's gonna get stronger because he's just getting started. And then he yells Darius' name like he's an anime voice actor. Eos goes straight through him though and tells him that he's gonna get stronger. He then falls into the water where this mysterious hot lady tells him to wake up. Meanwhile, Mr. Fister is completely fine and finds the doctor's pendant among the rubble. The Tron dude shows up and Mr. Fister says they might be able to get something out of this whole debacle. He asks the olfactor where they are, but he's actually unable to track them, which absolutely pisses off the olfister because he came back empty-handed. Well, not exactly, because he learned that the escapees made contact with Noon. Elsewhere, we see Cyan and Eos resting in the desert. Eos wants to get back to the action, but Cyan says she can't lose anybody else today. He apologizes for not being able to save her dad because he was a good dude and promises to avenge him. But then they get approached by this cowboy. He introduces himself as Noon and he reckons that they need some assistance. He pulls out a knife and cuts up that thing and starts a fire. He tells Eos he can feel him sizing him up and to chill because he's not a threat, because he's actually the one that saved them. He tells them that he probably got a lot of questions and he'll answer all of them after he gets some grub. Once dawn hits, they're all about to ride out, but Eos says he needs to get back to Montepeller so he can get his revenge. But Noon says this isn't really a negotiation, especially in his condition. He's like, what, am I hostage? And Noon says no, he's just trying to keep him safe. And if he was a hostage, he'd be dead weight. But he sees something in Eos and wants to help him harness that power. And he tells him it's time to turn in so that they can get their first lesson. We then see them traveling through the desert the next day, which completely completely bores Eos because he wants to see some action. Noon tells him that the gullies are the safest way across the desert, and they'll have cover until nightfall. Cyan asks cover for what, but he says don't worry about it. He tells him that they'll get there soon enough if they take his horse. Well, he walks behind them, but Eos is insulted by this thought because he feels like he's saying that he's too weak. But he's like, bro, you're busted up, you need rest. But Eos refuses and would rather go on foot. Okay, I like Eos, but he's being a lot right now. You just exploded, dude. Anyway, they start to trek on, but Eos immediately trips, summoning a dust grin that attacks them. Kinda seems like you should have took the horse. It shoots some goo at Eos and it wraps around him, which causes Noon to jump into action. He grabs some supercharged knives and hurls them at the dust grin, causing it to drop Eos, which gives him a chance to slap that bad boy down. He thanks Noon for the assist, but he says it's not over yet. He tells Eos he needs to control his anger so he can control his power, which he needs to do now because the dust grin is attacking Cyan. It goes for her, but she dodges the attack, but she gets wrapped up and starts getting pulled to the dust grin. Noon gives Eos a knife and tells him to focus his anger to the tip of it, and to aim that anger where he knows it's supposed to go. Eos rushes to the dustbin and slaps the hell out of it, finally defeating it. They all say Eos did a good job, but Noon says they should probably move on. Cyan and Eos want a souvenir though, so they start to pull out one of its bones. Noon says they should probably leave now, but it's too late, because a moth NATO just popped up out of the dust grin. Apparently it's some sort of parasite, and Noon says he'll take care of it quickly. He blasts it with a knife, absolutely destroying the moth. But the blast was so powerful that it created a freaking twister that's coming straight for him. They all get caught in the twister and Eos gets sent flying. But Noon lassos him. But he kind of lets him go, completely separating our trio. And when the storm dies down, Eos is found by this mysterious man who takes him somewhere. We see that Eos and Noon weathered the storm, and Cyan wants to go looking for Eos. But Noon says that he'll be okay, because he's way tougher than he looks. We then cut back to the bicep where we see, whoa, hold up. Oh, she's doing his nails. On his feet hands? What is this man made out of? Monkey man. Anyway, the big boss asks the olfactor what he has for him and to make it good, but he tells him that he hasn't come back to the city. Well, this pisses him off because he has nothing again, and the olfactor tells him to do it himself if he wants him to be found so badly, which pisses him off even more because he threatens him. He tells the olfactor that he has a lot of faith in him, and that's why he gave him that suit, and since he's the world famous tracker, he better not fail him again. Cutting back to Eos, he's finally waking up and he's wondering how he got here, but then he gets approached by this freaky guy. This guy's definitely a bad guy, right? We then cut back to Cyan and Noon, who are on the search for our boy. They decide to follow the dunes to Storm Maid, but then they get confronted by, oh, who is she? Daddy Lucky. Cutting back to Eos, he asks this strange man what he is. He tells him he's a friend named Graf. He asks if he's hungry and makes them both a banging meal. And Graf says he's glad that he found him. Eos asks if there's anyone with him when he found him, but he says he was all alone. Then he asks him why he's all alone, but Graf tells him his family is all gone, and staying in his home village is way too hard. Eos is like, ditto, bro. But Graf says our loved ones never really die, because they never really leave us. But then Graf says he has an idea. He asks Eos if he'll come with him to his village, because it's too hard for him to go alone. Eos is like, sure, which makes Graf super happy. Eos asks about his stitches, but he's like, it's nothing. Now go to bed. We then cut back to our duo who's surrounded by the baddie brigade. They get ready to fight, and when Big D is about to grab Cyan, she summons an electro staff and tells him to back off. They tell Big D just to kill her and to focus on the cowboy. And he tells her she can have one free hit. She's like, okay, and zaps him with her staff, defeating him. They attack Noon, wondering how she took down Big Dicker, but she zaps his pressure point. They team up on Cyan and knock her over, and then chain up her staff. They're about to hit her with this huge mallet, but she just pulls the chain guy and gets him crushed instead. They keep trying to hit her, but Cyan just whacks the hell out of her. She asks Noon what's taking him so long, but he says he's got everything under control. The lead baddie gets back up to run him back, and she starts swinging on Cyan again, but completely misses. Then she throws her hammer, which Cyan dodges, but the hammer swings back and knocks Cyan right into the baddie, who chokes the crap out of her. She tells her it's the end, but Cyan jabs her with the staff, causing her to explode! Dead baddie. She asks Noon if he's done, and he's just finishing up the last bad guy. He says, not bad. Looks like Eos isn't the only one with potential. Big D's still alive though, and tries to make a run for it. So Noon pulls out his gun and blows a huge hole in him. Cyan freaks out because he just killed that guy in cold blood. But Noon says that my ass ain't no place for compassion. Then Noon gets to cleaning up the mess. We then cut back to Eos, who's traveling through the desert with Graf, and asks Graf to tell him about his village. He said it was a fireplace where all the honeys were at, but this sign begs to differ. Graf says it's just there to scare off raiders and not to worry about it. But then Eos sees a pile of human skulls, and it's like, bro, what the fuck happened? Apparently Graf's wife got sick and nobody in the village wanted to help him, and somehow it led to all of them dying. We then see Noon and Cyan finding Eos' campsite, where they see evidence of him being there, and also a finger. Did they eat a person? That'd be fucking dark. That'd be kind of cool though. I mean, I'm not into cannibalism. Okay, moving on. They find a set of footprints that show Eos didn't leave on his own accord. The footprints have different sized legs and different sized feet. Then way to body shame our guy. I mean, he seems pretty cool, right? Cyan asks what could have done this, and Noon says she doesn't want to know, and says they need to hurry before it's too late, because our boy is in some serious trouble. And that is not where the story ends, because I could not get my hands on issues 5, 6, 7, or 8. I have to wait for them to come in through the mail, and because, you know, Christmas and stuff like that, it's gonna take a second. So when I can get those bad boys, then I'll be able to finish everything. So I'm sorry I couldn't finish it all in one video, but I am enjoying it so far. I need to know what Graft is. Like, what in the world could he be? Low-key kind of think that he's like an amalgamation of his family, or like, I don't know, some sort of like composite thing, because he's of like all the stitches or some shit like that. Also, I didn't expect Eos to be so messed up from the jump of the story. I know I said that a little bit earlier, but like, he's like messed up. Boy needs a doctor. Oh, boy needs a new one. I'm also glad that Cyan was able to actually like kick some ass a little bit. I kind of hate when like female characters don't do anything, but you know, she kind of kicked ass. And Noon being the chillest guy is kind of fire, I'm not gonna lie. Also, like, a cowboy mentor teacher training arc is something that I would love to see. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I just like this comic. I don't know. I feel like the reason why I like this comic so much is because, like, MoistCritical is a part of, like, the creative team, you know? I mean, I've been watching him since, like, he did, like, only video games, and, like, his hair was still short and stuff like that, to, like, when he grew it out and did more commentary stuff, to, like, where he is now. And, you know, he's done so much in that time, you know, being, like, one of the bigger names on YouTube, to, like, owning an esports team, to being, like, a voice actor in, like, a super popular video game right now. Like, he's still got it all. He's still got those acting chops from Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. I don't know, when I see YouTubers succeed, it makes me happy. It also makes me feel like maybe one day I could do that too. I mean, I'm nowhere close to his level, but I don't know. A boy can dream, right? But that's what I thought about the comic, and I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Like the video. And hype it up, come on. And subscribe so that I can feel a little bit of validation. But I'll see you guys in the next video. And make sure you tell your family that you love them. Bye-bye now.